The year is 2003. Elephant has just been released to much fanfare and critical praise. The White Stripes are in the midst of their world tour promoting the album, and they find themselves in a week-long residency at Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Blistering performances of Seven Nation Army and The Hardest Button to Button are performed, along with the live staple and fan favorite, the band's cover of Dolly Parton's Jolene. But on the final night of their stay, the band dives into their back catalog to perform this week's song in a medley that blows the roof off the building and melts the damn walls with its power and intensity. All while Jack bellows and pleads, "We got one chance left, Meg." This is the hardest podcast to podcast, and that song is Let's Build a Home.
I'd like to introduce to you a band that you know and love. Come to you like the sound of equipment being thrown from a moving van, the sound of dead cell phones and oil rigs, the sound of empty parking lots and school buses. They love to live and live to love. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus Children of America, the White Stripes.
Hey, come on in. The water's great. My name is Ryan Schaap, and this is the hardest podcast to podcast. Thank you for joining us once again. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for coming back. We really enjoy having you along on this journey and on this ride. I want to thank my dear friend Paul McClellan for joining us last week to discuss I Can't Wait off of White Blood Cells. I say this every week, but I thought last week's conversation was fantastic, just like the previous week and the previous week. But there is one thing I need to bring up. It is our first fact check, our error and omission. I mentioned last week that they didn't play Seven Nation Army at that July 29 show in 2007 at the House of Blues in North Myrtle Beach, which was one of the 3 times they performed at least part of I Can't Wait. I said they didn't play Seven Nation Army that night and something must have been off. They did play Seven Nation Army that night. I got that wrong. What is strange is it was the 7th song in the set list. Oh, that's fun. I didn't think about that. It followed Catch Hell Blues, and it was played right before, get this, I Can't Wait. So in my research tracking down performance histories, everything was right there in black and white in front of me, and I botched that one. I also want to say I am loving and deeply appreciate hearing from people that are getting something from this show. I encourage you, the listener, to send us an email, hardestpodtopod@gmail.com, or just send us a DM on Instagram or Blue Sky or TikTok, where you can follow us in all those places at hardestpodtopod. I received an email over the weekend from a listener named Steph, and they just had some very kind words to say about the show and last week's conversation in particular, and just mentioned in no other certain terms that they feel seen. The show makes them feel seen, and that's exactly what we're looking to do here. That's what I'm looking to do, and to cultivate a great, cool as hell, positive, productive space that hey, the door's open to everyone if you're cool and respectful, and I want to take you all on this journey together and spend time celebrating this band. So Steph, thank you very much again for that email. Also, if you're liking this show, it's pretty simple. We just need you to go and follow us on your podcast platforms and rate and review on the podcast platform, and tell a friend. If you listen to us on Spotify, you can share, podcasts and songs in your Instagram stories. Do that. Just get the word out there. Like I said, we're growing this footprint, and we want this show to get loud, and it might get loud. And if you want it to get loud and you really like the show and you can help support, go to buymeacoffee.com/hardestpodtopod and give me, Ryan, one more cup of coffee for the road. Coffee, of course, is in air quotes, and anything that you donate, anything that you pledge, it goes directly into the show. This has also absolutely snuck up on me. We're just over a week away from Jack White and the No Name Tour hitting beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. And I will be lucky enough to be at both shows. I will be there Thursday night with my wife, Amanda, who is, I think, at the beginning of this episode is still our intern. And on the Friday night, I'll be going with a dear friend, Josh Custodio of Wrestling Brain, and who discussed Black Math on this podcast. So I am very excited for this concert. I really like the production and the approach to touring that that the No Name Tour has championed. I really like the band that he has assembled and the way they're performing music. So I'm very excited. And, no knock to the previous tours that were in larger venues here in Vancouver. This is going to be taking place in the Commodore Ballroom, which is arguably one of the best music venues ever. So if you're going to the Vancouver shows, send me an email, send me a DM. I'll be there. And if you're in line and I have asked you to scan a QR code to check out this podcast, thank you for doing that. It's time for this week's call to action. Hit pause on this podcast and go to your preferred streaming platform. Go to Stijl, the White Stripes' second album, and hit play on Let's Build a Home. There is a second call to action this week. I need you to go to YouTube. I need you to go to YouTube and look up the White Stripes' Let's Build a Home on Conan O'Brien, because this is one of the best live White Stripes performances you'll see, and it was absolutely fantastic, and we devote a large chunk of the show to that performance. This episode is devoted to one of the best White Stripes live songs, one of the rowdiest ones, the bluesiest punk song, and the punkiest blues song that they've got. It's Let's Build a Home. Our guest this week is a long-standing White Stripes fan and covers the New York Islanders on the Islanders Anxiety podcast. He is Dan Saraceni. Now, Dan, excluding the video for Fell in Love with a Girl, what stood out to you the most about the White Stripes? What made you kind of gravitate towards them?
So, I'm old. Like I'm 49. So I have been listening to a lot of the same music for the better part of my life. I gravitate sort of between basically the mid 60s to about the mid to late 90s, that sort of immediate post-college period. And then I kind of just stopped adding new bands at some point. My all-time favorite band is Van Halen. I remember being 8 years old and seeing the cover of the 1984 album and thinking that was the most badass thing ever, with the baby and smoking cigarettes. And so I kind of like, that's sort of like my, one of my sort of touchstone kind of things.
Your favorite band is Van Halen?
It is, yes.
I wish that you could have seen, I recently redid this shelf for my White Stripes related projects and wrestling, but I had like 3 or 4 Van Halen books on there, like the visual history. I just bought awesome. Alex's book.
I want to read that, although from what I understand, he gives Sammy like one sentence in the book, and so I'm like, that's a little shady.
Yeah, it's written very oddly. It's written with a lot of quotes from interviews by them, and he just kind of like, it's like what I said to Entertainment Tonight in 1996. Like, really, I haven't finished it.
Yeah.
But we have to have another conversation about Van Halen, because that is a fascinating, like, I love Van Halen a lot.
Yeah, me too.
My one note, one of the coolest things I've ever seen was Jack White playing a EVH Wolfgang guitar on the Boarding House Reach tour. And the week when Eddie unfortunately passed, Jack had to fill in for Morgan Wallen on SNL. And he's like, well, I'm not using this guitar anymore, but I'm going to pay. I'm going to use it for this.
Right.
And he's like, he's like, I'm not going to do a cover. It's going to not do any justice. But he does Lazaretto, and he does a bit of an Eddie Van Halen finger tap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, like it's just perfect. Like
Yeah.
I was like, it gets me every time.
Yeah.
Sorry for the sidetrack, but we're talking about your favorite band.
Yeah, no. To me, they're just, and I love both ends. I listen to Sammy. I listen to Dave. Not so much Gary, to be honest with you, but I don't think really anybody does. And but like that's sort of, I grew up on Long Island in the '80s. A lot of denim jackets with the sleeves cut off. A lot of Van Halen, Def Leppard, Rat, Bon Jovi patches on the back and stuff like that. So that's sort of the era I grew up in. And as an adult, it's been sort of hard to get other bands into that sort of sphere. I mean, again, you pick any of those bands, and from the Who to Black Sabbath, you kind of configure, and then the grunge era is kind of where it mostly stopped. But there have been a few bands that have broken in and made it, and were very easy to just integrate into my other playlist. And the White Stripes are right at the head of the list. I mean, just immediately, as soon as I heard Fell in Love with a Girl, which apparently is everybody's gateway into the band. But oddly, after listening to all the episodes of the show, I think I'm the only person who never saw the video, the Lego video. Like by that point,
really?
I had basically stopped watching MTV at that point. Once it became like the sort of TRL channel, I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. And they eventually canceled like 120 Minutes and Headbangers Ball, which were really the kind of only shows that I cared about. And so I never saw that video. I must have heard it on the radio somewhere in 2002, I guess, when the record came out. And immediately it just entered my playlist, never looked back, bought White Blood Cells, and then eventually bought Stijl, which is where the song we're going to talk about today is.
You mentioned Fell in Love with a Girl. Fell in Love with a Girl is a very short song.
Yeah.
Just like the song we're talking about this week. It is, I got Stijl right here. It's the third song on side B. It is Let's Build a Home. Clocks in at 1:58. 25 seconds of it is a home recording, an old family recording from the Gillis family. Did you know that was a recording of Jack White?
I absolutely did not. And your notes were very illuminating to me when it said that. I just kind of thought, so you can hear a woman in the background talking and then the kid doing the thing, and there's a guy kind of talking. I assumed the woman was Meg and the guy was Jack, and maybe the kid was somebody who was in the studio, maybe like a producer's kid or something. And I had no idea this is actually Jack White from when he was a little kid. And he's apparently, like, his brother may have recorded this or something. So that was news to me.
Yeah, he comes from a big family, and they've got like a tape recorder going around like a family gathering or whatever. And the prominent person heard is his mom. Now I think he's one of the youngest, so I don't know if it'd be a dad or an older brother, but the mom's got the tape recorder out, which was, it was like video cameras and tape recorders were kind of things that you did at family gatherings because nothing was captured. And the microphone comes to Jack and she goes, you sing some of a song, you know any off by heart? Which ones? And why don't you sing that song you were singing about the little red box? Oh, yeah, I haven't heard that one in a long while. Did you forget it? And he's all like, no.
Yeah.
Like just this defensive child. Like, I know everything that is asked upon me. And so she goes, show me how it goes. I forget. And so childlike Jack goes, I wish I had a little red box to put my best friends in, which is such a White Stripes coded lyric already.
Exactly.
I'd take them out and put them back again. And then the slide guitar just comes in aggressively.
Yep.
But Jack said in an interview years later, he goes, it was some sort of religious song that he was trying to sing, and he got the lyrics wrong. It was supposed to be this, like, I guess Sunday school playground kind of rhyming whatever. I wish I had a little red box to put the devil in. I'd take him out and punch and put him back again.
Which is also fairly aggressive as well for a quote unquote religious song. Like, you punch and take him out and punching it. But I did not know any of this. Again, I just assumed I heard a lady with a very strong Michigan accent, and I assumed it was just Meg White.
It is a very Michigan accent. That is a good ear on your part.
Yeah.
So this song, took a life of its own kind of after it was released. But let's just talk about the bones of this song.
Mm.
Like, it's clearly one that's resonated with you. When you put it on, what stands out? What do you what is it putting down that you're picking up? And just what makes you gravitate towards it?
So I'm not a big like sort of ballad guy. I like my music again very hard and aggressive, but not too hard and aggressive. I'm not into like the growly metal, the kind of stuff. And so when I bought White Blood Cells, I enjoyed the record. It wasn't like I was disappointed at all, but there's a lot of kind of jingle jangle stuff on there and more bluesy stuff that I was hoping for something a little bit closer to Fell in Love with a Girl, which is a bit of a standout. There's a couple of tracks on there that are kind of like that, but I liked it enough to buy Stijl because when I bought the record, I remember, and actually it's funny, I bought it around the corner from the AP building. We used to have a record store called FYE, so I used to go early, go shopping for stuff, and then go to work. So when I realized, oh wow, this isn't these guys' first record, this is their third record. I'm like late to the party here. Yeah. I bought their second record. It was a little bit more my style, and even in listening to Stijl in preparation for this, it's still just a great record. Either that, White Blood Cells, or Elephant is my favorite. I can't really pick one or the other, but it's just it's right in my wheelhouse. It's sort of punky, but it's also very bluesy and kind of old school. And I'm a big believer in that, especially when it comes to music, but really in any art. In order to like sort of break the rules, you have to understand the rules better than anybody. And because you need to know what to break in order for the song to be new and fresh, but still be a song. Like it still has to sound like music for people to, and there are people that like, kind of stuff that's very much out there, but not me. I'm kind of a straightforward type of person when it comes to this stuff. And Jack White is right at the top of the list for people that I think fall into that category. Prince was another guy, like, Prince is, you can hear the early records, like you can kind of hear Sly Stone and James Brown and like sort of the disco influence of the late 70s. But then it's not long before he's like, okay, well, what else can I do? And then you get When Doves Cry or 1999 or Kiss or whatever, it's like the stuff that's really pushing the envelope of like, what is a pop song? What is rock? What is this? And, Prince blending all these genres. And the White Stripes is very much like that. And so what stands out to me about Let's Build a Home is that it's very short. We're going to talk about that, I think, a lot. This whole thing again, without the poem, it's barely 90 seconds long, but it's got all of the elements that you need for a great rock song. It's got like two great riffs. I guess we'll talk about the construction in a minute. It's even got a tiny little solo in there. I don't know if you would consider it a solo or if Jack considers it a solo. It's a little kind of breakdown section, but it's catchy. And the drum part is great. Obviously it's very driving. And I remember getting that record and much like Fell in Love with a Girl, just listening to that one song just over and over and over again, because it was just so hooky that you couldn't, even after you were done listening to it, it's still stuck in your head and you just have to listen to it over and over again before it finally kind of just, lets go of you. And you're like, okay, you can move on to something else now.
You and I had similar responses to White Blood Cells. I went and got the first album and the self-titled, and the song that really did it for me was Broken Bricks.
Yes.
Like that's the one where 100%. I'm like, oh, this is my band.
Yep.
Now you may, I don't know if it was a Freudian slip or whatever, but White Blood Cells, we talked about, famously had a no blues rule on it.
Yeah.
So it's not that the album is bluesy. It's just for people like us with an ear of like, we want some hooks and we kind of want to, we want the best of both worlds. White Blood Cells is a little tense and it's like a stressful record. It's incredible, but it's like, it's not it doesn't really go as in parts where you want it to.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Despite being their bluesiest record, like so much of the style just keeps on chugging along. Right. And, some of their heavier and faster songs are on it, but it's still predominantly a blues record. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. Yeah. That really resonated with me because I'm like, this is good. I'd like some stuff that sounds a little bit more like Fell in Love with a Girl. And that's why we're landed here on Let's Build a Home. Yeah.
Let's Build a Home is also as bluesy as it's based in the blues as it is. Obviously, there's a lot of White Stripes songs on it. It also reminds me very much of AC/DC. of all things. Like it's almost got the same kind of elements as every AC/DC song has, which is, just a couple of chords, a very driving bass, drum part with the floor tom, which we're going to talk about when we get to that part. And it's just short. Like it doesn't overstay its welcome. Obviously it doesn't have like some kind of face melting Angus Young solo in there, but that's okay. But I mean, I think structurally it has a lot in common with your average AC/DC song, which is also sort of bluesy rather than just sort of like straight blues,
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, and like the thing that makes AC/DC so special is just like it's the simplest music ever. But if you ask them how they're going to play "Let There Be Rock" for 19 minutes, it's like the most difficult thing in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw them last week or the week before, and I did leave during "Let There Be Rock" to beat the traffic. So I knew it was in the encore. Yeah. It was time to go.
I saw them in, I guess it was 98 at Madison Square Garden on the Ball Breaker tour. And it was the loudest concert I've ever been to. My friend and I both worked at the same ice cream shop at the time, and we both had to work the next day. I went in a little earlier than him, like maybe an hour or two earlier than him. I couldn't hear a thing. And thank God we had almost no customers at the time. He came in and all I saw was him, and he goes like this. And I was like, dude, I can't hear you. And he's like, oh, I can't hear anything either. I was like, well, how the hell are we supposed to work? But it was a great show, and they opened it by Brian Johnson was sitting on a wrecking ball, and he came through like a huge wall of bricks or whatever it was. This is 30 years before Miley Cyrus, I guess, did something similar. So AC/DC pioneers as always.
Damn straight. This song is frantic. It's fast. For the guitar heads out there, it's an open E tuning on Jack's Red Harmony Rocket guitar, which was his primary guitar until the guy from the Oblivion sold him the airline nickname Jetson. Actually, it was right around this time. And it's open E, but it really you can fake it by playing it and drop D. So it does have a little bit of got some oomph to it. The lyrics, I have a couple, like in preparation for this project, I went and we invested in the complete lyrics of the White Stripes, and there's a lot of handwritten stuff and original ideas, and there's a few songs that the original shape and structure of the song was like completely different than what made it on the album, as is the case with a lot of art. And so I was like, I wonder what this was. The original lyrics I can find. This song was done. It was in ink. There was no changes.
Right.
I will now recite all the lyrics. Some bricks now, baby, let's build a home. Some bricks now, baby, let's build a home. Come on, all right, come on. I'm getting lazy, throw me a bone. I'm getting lazy, throw me a bone. Come on, all right, come on. Some bricks now, baby, let's build a home. Some bricks now, baby, let's build a home. Come on, all right, come on.
Yeah. When I saw them written out, it just confirmed what I had already assumed, which is that a third of the lyrics of this song are just "come on" and "all right," and even if you wanted to expand it to the woos, which are really more like a whoop like that, there's still not a whole lot going on here. But it's interesting because I'm not a big like lyrics interpreter. Like I don't really pay that much attention. It's funny. I was thinking about when I'm in the car with my daughter and the Beastie Boys come on, and I'll recite a line or two, and she'll always say, what is this song even about? And I'm always like, the song is about who cares. That's what the song is about. Like the same as every Beastie Boys song. Who cares? What difference does it make?
Fighting for your right to party.
Yeah, it's about a guy who likes his sugar with coffee and cream, or like about having more rhymes than Jamaica's Got Mangoes. Like it doesn't mean anything. Every verse means something different, and who cares? Like it doesn't matter. And so this is I interpreted this as not so much like a literal home, but like a relationship type of thing. This is what I thought. And of course, this song came out, or rather I should say I heard this song again, 2003, 2002, whatever it was. And this was at the height of this sort of like, what are Meg and Jack? What are they, are they brother and sister? They're saying they're brother and sister. People are saying they're married. Some people are saying they're divorced. What's the deal here? Like, like, oh my God, what's going on? And so if I'm going to interpret these lyrics, I did think it meant like a relationship sort of thing, building a home together, somebody being like, throw me a bone, like, just come on, let's go. Let's be boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, whatever. And of course you can't not interpret it through the lens of like Jack talking to Meg in this setting somehow, or maybe her talking to him. And so, and at first you think, well, that's pretty weird. I mean, they're in a band together, but then you remember, wait, Fleetwood Mac built an entire, empire off of songs about hating each other and loving each other and so on. So they would not be the first rock band that was like that. But that was sort of my interpretation of it. But again, this song is 20 words long. Most of them are "come on" and "all right" and "woo." And so I don't want to think too much about it. And I just let it go and let it wash over me and just enjoy the song for what it is.
It's a song you don't need to think about.
No.
I always, we're wrestling fans, and Oasis's "Fucking in the Bushes" was that Nigel McGuinness's theme song or something in ROH? That song rules, and you can't think about it. It's just like it just goes. Like,
dude, Hot for Teacher there's nothing in the song. There's again 20 words in the entire song, and most of them are "I got it bad, I'm hot for teacher." That's it. That's the song, and you don't need anything else. It's a kick-ass solo, kick-ass drums. 4 minutes later, you're done. Like,
you don't need anything, but I've got my pencil. Give me something to write on.
Exactly. Yeah, you need that kind of stuff.
There's a couple of style, the one thing I want to do on this show and make an effort to is to give Meg her flowers, because a lot of I'm going through a lot of old interviews that I read in high school when I was following the band, and old magazine scans and coverage, and it's a lot of this coverage around this band around this time, leading into White Blood Cells, is we've got the smoking gun, we've got the divorce certificate. They were so tongue in cheek because this was this performative art project. It's this isn't who we are. We don't live in a red and white and black house and just live weirdo childlike lives. So she got the short end of the stick in so many things in this. In her journey in music. So I'm all about giving her flowers. I'm not all about giving her participation medals, but there's a couple of ways that Meg drums in the songs that I love. There's a couple of types of songs. There's Let's Shake Hands, where she literally plays it with one hand. And this is one of my favorite type of Meg White drumming, because it makes so much sense. I am a poser musician. I could play a guitar for you if I could keep a beat on the drums. But why do all this extra work with a hi-hat when I can just play on the snare and the floor tom and have this cool ass heavy rolling beat. Yeah. So her drumming made so much sense to me as somebody that kind of approached it the way she did. What sounds cool? It's not, where can I get my fills in? It's what sounds coolest? Yeah. And so I'm a big sucker for the Meg White floor tom snare songs, and this is one of them, and it just and it goes hard, and I love it.
That's a classic rock thing too. Obviously most song 99% probably of songs use the hi-hat, but you go through, I mean, again, this is a very AC/DC type thing. TNT, Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, which is my favorite AC/DC song. They both use the floor toms and stuff like that, and it's that deep, heavy and it's just driving. The perfect word is driving, because that's what the drum here is. And I've been a Meg fan for the whole time. I never understood the kind of hate she got. In watching videos before this, I wonder how much of it is being a girl and the inherent misogyny of the rock world, but I wonder if it's also just the way she plays, not so much the parts she's playing, but her sort of the countenance that she puts forth while playing. Sometimes she's kind of nodding her head back and forth, and sometimes she's just sort of bopping along and stuff like that. She's not playing the sort of old man rock type. She doesn't look like sort of old man rock drummer that I think a lot of people kind of gravitate to it. It almost looks like the White Stripes. I guess every rock band is sort of like this, but maybe the White Stripes almost more than anybody else. They make it look so easy, but it's not easy. Doing what she does is not easy. And she makes it look very easy because she's got she's smiling, or she's, just kind of bopping along and having a good time. But what she does is not easy. And Jack will be the first person to tell you that. I just also, before I forget, you may call yourself a poser musician, but you're way ahead of the game than I am, because the only music I can play, the only instruments I can play are usually connected to either Guitar Hero or Rock Band. And so I have 5 colored buttons on it. I'm usually pretty good at those games because I play them a lot in my spare time, but I can't even hold a tune. I can't even sing a song. I can't. My daughter does musical theater and she's constantly practicing all the time. And I'm always like, I don't know where she came up with this sort of thing. It's crazy.
Where are you finding these pitches and tones?
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I can't. Again, when we play Rock Band, I only sing Beastie Boys songs because I just have to know. So that you're not singing, you're just like reciting, nonsense lyrics. But yeah, no, Meg,
you should.
Great job.
You bring up a good point about how challenging it is. I heard it. I talked about it with Mike in the My Doorbell episode that I never put into. It never really. I never clued in how much work just the two of them have to put in to make a sound and make a concert. Yeah. So
especially live, you're just like, this must have been exhausting. Oh my God.
Yeah. So again, well-deserved flowers of just you're playing these, there's so little elements of this White Stripes music that you can't just I'm just gonna hang out on the kick drum here. I'm just gonna tap the hi-hat and take a breather. This was a very hard band to perform in.
Sure.
Whether you're Jack White or you're Meg White or you're that one guy that played bass in those AC/DC covers.
Yeah. You can't get lost in there. The cliche sort of heavy metal bass player who's just sort of standing there and we're not even sure if his bass is plugged in or not because we can't hear him because there's a drummer out here and a lead guitarist over here and a singer over here. But yeah, there's none of that going on in the White Stripes. But again, the floor tom snare combo is not just AC/DC, but Wipeout and Back in the Saddle by Aerosmith. It's one of my favorite kind of I think Kiss used it in a bunch of songs. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but just classic stuff. And it's never not satisfying to hear too.
I couldn't agree more with you. It just gives this, if you want your song to be kind of hard and tough, having that type of drumming is going to give it to you.
Right.
Let's move on to the song's legacy in a little segment we call Little Room, Big Impact. This was a live staple for a handful of years when the White Stripes were touring. Stijl, Into White Blood Cells, and Elephant. But as with any band, as the catalog grows and grows, the songs, something's got to go.
Right. And
there's only so many songs that Jack White plays with this open E harmony rocket guitar. There's I Fought Piranhas. There's Let's Build a Home. There's Going Back to Memphis, the Soledad Brothers cover. Yeah. So he, it's unfortunate that the song is in this key with that instrument because I gotta unplug, I gotta walk over, and I've made the stage difficult to navigate already.
Right.
And maybe I want to play something I want to play My Doorbell or Nile Twist or something off it. So we'll talk about it in the live segment. But I was listening to it. It is the punkiest blues song ever, and it is the bluesiest punk song ever. But I would say it was one of the artifacts of the White Stripes blues era of the first record, primarily on Stijl. White Blood Cells, they had their no blues rule, which is fine. But it just kind of felt like the approach to albums became one big blues song per album. You had it with Ball and a Biscuit on Elephant. You had it with Instinct Blues.
Right.
You had it with Catch Hell Blues.
Right.
You'd have other ones, but it was we're limiting ourselves. So it just, in even those songs that I mentioned, they're played with the guitar that they do Death Letter and Seven Nation Army on. So it's Let's Build a Home is really collecting some dust as it's leaned up against the Silvertone amps.
Yeah. I wonder if it's sort of like a transitional song between the bluesier stuff for the early days and then the non-bluesier stuff, especially as you said, as the catalog grows, their songs, they're adding more and more songs. And all of a sudden you've got Elephant and you've got Icky Thump and you've got to get those songs in there too. But you can play Let's Build a Home again combined with other songs and kind of transition into other stuff. I wonder if that's just, again, I'm not a musician, but I would wonder if that's sort of part of the structure of the set list to get all that stuff in there and make it all sound cohesive.
We'll talk about the set list in a second. Let's just finish up here. It was released as a B-side to the very odd album the very odd single of There's No Home For You Here. You can buy it now with proper artwork off thirdmanrecords.com, but I remember buying it from the UK. No, it's on XL Records, and it literally just had a red X and a red L on the back. No artwork.
Really? Wow.
They're like, hey, we've made a fourth single. Okay.
Okay.
The B-side was a live recording at Electric Ladyland Studios, New York. And like I said, I fought piranhas into Let's Build a Home. So I look at this song as a key White Stripes song. I think like if you were kind of coming into the band in the early 2000s, there was a handful of like very key bootlegs that this song was prominently on, and some performances. But it's it wasn't a single. It's 90 seconds long on a good day. I think it's just such a unique and powerful song that it didn't need all that. And you're gonna get the Let's Build a Home pop just because of how cool the song is, not because it was the third single off the record.
Yeah, not to bring up AC/DC again, but you know what song pops up a lot in people's set lists in the middle of songs? I know Pearl Jam has done this. I wonder if the White Stripes done it, but like it's very easy to transition into the Whole Lotta Rosie riff. And so you'll be playing one song and then all of a sudden people will hear that and everybody knows what it is and they go crazy and you play that for a minute and then you go back to the song again. So again, I think Let's Build a Home is, like, you're right, it's a key song because you can kind of shove it in anywhere. It works with I Fought Piranhas. It works with Memphis, we'll talk about in a minute, so I think you can just combine it with a bunch of different, as long as they're in the same key, obviously, and use the same
So what you're saying is Let's Build a Home is the White Stripes' Whole Lotta Rosie, and I'm championing that until I find a better version.
That works for me.
Yeah. We have another segment on this show. It's called Get Behind the Camera, Satan. Let's talk about the video. There is none, but you can watch it on the Under Blackpool Lights, which was recorded in Super 8 cameras on the Elephant Tour in Blackpool, England. It's very cool. It looks like shit. It looked like shit in 2004. So if you're like, oh, look at this, when you watch old sports clips on YouTube and you're like, yeah, it was, it came out in 2005. It might as well come out in 1985. It looks so bad.
Yeah. It looks like you're trying to watch it through a dirty fish tank, and it's like, what is going on here?
That was Under Blackpool Lights. I bought it on my birthday after my braces came off in 2004.
That's amazing.
And I was like, we got to watch it. I'm like, man, this looks like, I mean, it's cool. It's the right way to capture the band, but it doesn't look the best.
Yeah. Sometimes you'd rather it be a clear picture, obviously.
This song is all about being performed live. There's a couple of key performances that we're going to talk about, but it's time for LPH, the live performance history. 605 documented performances on setlist.fm. Let's Build a Home was played 102 times. Wow. I haven't done the actual math of tour dates that, those include, TV appearances and the Canadian secret shows. So, but it was prominent.
Yes.
It was first performed live on July 11th, 1998, which is about 2 years before Elephant came out.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And it was there's a lot of bootlegs. There's a lot of song ideas kicking around. Like Dead Leaves. I always say this: Dead Leaves in the Dirty Ground was performed in 98 or 99.
Wow.
Jack jamming with another band. So Guns N' Roses had November. Axl had the November Rain piano riff for in 1986. So,
oh wow.
Yeah. So and he's like, one day it's only coming out when I can do it perfect.
That's funny.
It was first performed live at the 4th Street Fair in Detroit, Michigan. That video is on YouTube or audio. I think it's just audio. That was a very famous, at the time when I was growing up, that was deemed like the earliest possible White Stripes bootleg. So a lot of B-sides are on there, and Let's Build a Home is on there. They also, that day at that fair, they also played Why Can't You Be Nicer to Me, which is also off of Stijl. As I mentioned, it's a slide guitar song in open E, and there's only a handful of songs you can play with it, and it was consistently played with the Soledad Brothers cover going back to Memphis. That is a band from Toledo, Ohio. Ben Swank was the drummer. He is now one of the higher ups at Third Man Records. Yeah. And we once wrote him a letter in high school because record collector out of the UK, Jack would have moved at this point, I think, but they're like, hey, you see this house on the cover of the album? That's Jack White's house in Detroit. The address is 1203 Ferdinand Street. Wow. So I'm like, let's write Jack White a letter. I'm like, Ben Swank lives there too. Let's send him a letter. Just in case, because there's a better chance that he will read it.
Because they were roommates, right? Is that what it was before? Yeah.
He had a bit of a Jack had a bit of a not like a punk house or a flop house, but a lot of bands would come into Detroit and he would record them in the living room. Stijl was recorded in his living room, and and he bought his parents' old house, so it had probably 7 bedrooms. And hey, you need to sleep on some foam here? Go right ahead.
That's funny.
So it's performed this. I brought this up a couple of minutes ago that like as the catalog got bloated for all the right reasons. Like there's so many good songs that came out after Stijl. It was performed 9 times in 2000, 16 times in 01, 23 times in 02, 26 times in 03, 6 times in 04, 10 times in 04. In 05, and just 3 times in 2007. And it was just a victim of circumstance. If you were following this band or seeing them in the early 2000s, this was a very key part of the louder, faster blues portion of the performance. And then it wasn't. Dan, did you ever see the White Stripes live?
I did not, unfortunately. I have not seen the White Stripes live, or didn't get a chance to. Unfortunately, this was, I discovered them again while working at the AP, which was a night job. The shift was 7 at night to 3 a.m., which usually ended up being around 1:30 a.m. By that point, my roommate and I, who I also worked with, would be back at our apartment playing Xbox while still technically on the clock. But it was a night job, and then
I know those night jobs.
Yeah. And then I got married. I got married in 2006. And my wife, I love her to death. She's one of my 2 favorite people on earth, along with my daughter. She's not a huge White Stripes fan, doesn't really like them. Her favorite artist is Cher. So she's seen Cher 5 times. I've seen her 3 times with her. We saw her do a book tour here in New York City. So no, this was not a time when I was going to a ton of concerts. And it's unfortunate, again, because in preparation for this, I've been watching a lot of these videos. We're going to get to the 2 that in a second that stand out about this song, and it just seems like such a singular experience, just these 2 people, and I'm sure a roadie or whatever bringing a guitar in and whatnot, but it's so different than watching a big band with 4. I mean, I've seen Rush live, and if you've seen Rush, they have washing machines and rotisserie chickens going on, and they're having a big, but it's only 3 guys, but they take up a lot of space, right? Because they're doing a lot of stuff. And this is a totally different vibe. This is just 2 people with the barest of equipment putting on a furious show for probably upwards of 90 minutes, and they play a million songs, and it's just I forget what episode it was, you mentioned that their tours were short, they would go on for a couple of weeks and then take some time off. Now I can see why, because it must have been by the time you're at that last show, you're probably just completely gassed, you probably can't even walk straight, let alone play a song.
You would need a training camp to go on this tour. All right, we're going on 3 weeks, we're playing every other day, it's gonna be get ready. Forget about the vocal, you think about bands think of the voice. No, think of how much weight you lose every night performing this song.
It's got to be running a marathon every day for 3 weeks. How is that possible?
I can only imagine just working. Jack White has played it on the No Name tour this year. He's played it 8 times so far in 2025. It has snuck up on me. When this comes out, it'll be about a week and a half away. But I will be seeing Jack at the Commodore here in Vancouver.
That's awesome.
Both nights that he plays here. And hey, maybe I'll hear Let's Build a Home. But if you heard they'll hear me talk about this off the top in the cold open. But it's 2003. Elephant comes out. The White Stripes have appeared on Conan O'Brien before. A friendship and a relationship has come up. So they're going to perform every night that week. They did Seven Nation Army. They did Hardest Button to Button. They played Jolene one night, and there's another one I can't remember off the top of my head. But the last night they're there, they go all out. Out comes the Red Harmony rocket, and out comes that frantic slide up the fretboard with the slide, and they go into Let's Build a Home. When you and I talked about doing this recording, I was like, this is a big one. That Conan O'Brien performance is just incredible. So you take the lead on this. What stands out? What blows your mind about it? And just like, what makes this performance on Late Night or the whatever it is with Conan O'Brien so special and so cool?
So I'm about to make you very jealous because I had not seen this until just this week. I did not know about all of this. And so experiencing it is really something. Like, it's every once in a while, these TV performances, like, we don't live in an Ed Sullivan show world anymore. Like, we're not going to see Elvis, or the Beatles or whatever perform. But every once in a while, you get these TV performances that sort of transcend just an average musical performance. And the one I always think about is Queen when they were on Saturday Night Live. They did Crazy Little Thing Called Love. And this is a band that's used to playing to 100,000 people in Wembley Stadium or the Montreal Forum or whatever it is, and they're playing probably in front of 250 people in NBC studios, and they literally shred the roof off of that place. It's insane.
Oh, yeah.
The energy coming off of that performance, and that's not my favorite Queen song, but the way they rip it up is crazy. I'm surprised the building is still standing. This is a lot like that. Like you said, they go all out. And, you're talking about playing 3 songs inside of 4.5 minutes or whatever it is. And they're just like using this space. Like, it's just, they're trashing the studio in a way with sound, with energy, with, Jack at one point starts walking away. His guitar gets unplugged. He's like, I don't know if he's on the couch or on the desk or something. Like, it's just like, even Conan is a little like, what's going on here, guys? But he's just, it's just a singular, insane performance that's right up there with that. Super Bowl halftime shows are very cliche at this point, but
Prince at the halftime show,
I was gonna say, I have been talking about this Prince halftime show for years. I was working at the AP at the time. That game sucked. That was the Colts Bears game. It was awful. Nobody was paying any attention to it, and Prince came on, and I promise you, because I was there, the entire AP sports department stopped what they were doing.
Yep.
Watch Prince. And I watch it every year. And I tell my wife and daughter every time we watch Super Bowl together, I'm like, nothing will ever top Prince. But like, this is one of those performances where you're watching it and you're like, how is this on television? Like regular television. And it's like a singular moment that just lives on. I'm surprised more people don't talk about this, because it's just a crazy, again, you're shoehorning 3, we'll talk about the song in a second, but like, you're shoehorning these 3 songs into this furious set of, it's almost like a little mini concert that, ripped up an entire studio, and they just left it all out there, to use a sports cliche.
I love it. There's a couple of moments that just have always stood out for me. Like, he jumps up on Meg's bass drum.
Yeah.
He's going hard. Meg is having the time of her life.
Yes.
Playing this. And she is stunning. She looks stunning in this performance. She's got this beehive hair, this timeless look, and she's just dialed in.
Yeah.
So they play Let's Build a Home, and then they go into going back to Memphis, and they're basically saying, like, we got to bring it all. We've got one chance left, because they've been there all week. We got to win them over. We got to give them something, which is this like kind of classic Bruce Springsteen. We got to give them their money's
Yeah.
worth. Like,
Right.
if we don't knock it out, we're screwed. And they had crushed it all week. So
Yeah.
it's this like perfect pageantry.
Right.
And then he starts going into his solo. Like Jack is famous for these stuttering
Right.
solos with the Digitech whammy on. And, you know, from a production background, you kind of know if they're going to move to a different set, they'll be a little more prepared than they were.
Right.
And they weren't. And he just gets up. He goes to the next stage. He's to the desk. He sits down on the chair and he starts doing slide guitar.
Right.
Like it's a pedal steel. And he's just going so fast and so frantically. And they just keep going back to Meg. And she's just in this perfect rhythmic trance. And he's about to go back. I don't know what they were going to finish or what the next song or how they would finish this incredible performance was, what the original plan was. But clearly Jack steps on his cable or it gets caught in the couch. He realizes his guitar's unplugged. He throws it down, which is just classic badass rock and roll. And the White Stripes are really good at communicating with each other on stage because there's only two of them. Like over on the piano, there's a mirror so they can make eye contact. And he does a lot of like, you know, he has signs like he'll throw his strumming arm up or he'll do a 3 for 3 bashes. So I'm pretty sure on the walk back, he probably just yells like Revelator or something. John the Revelator is the last song they perform. And it's a song off of their first album. And so I think he yells Revelator. So Meg knows just to keep a beat going. And he's just like he's in a trance. They cut the camera to Meg a couple of times.
Yes.
And like this is 2003. So I'm like 15 or so. I'm in grade 10.
Wow.
They cut to Meg with just like is so fixated on Jack White. Like
she's like possessed almost in this.
They are possessed. They are one cohesive unit. And in that moment you go, oh, I get why these two can play music so well together.
Yeah.
They are communicating and saying so much with saying nothing. And just this stunning woman is just crushing it. Yeah. And like, I got you. I know where you're going to go.
Yeah. Song
ends, throw the shit down. Conan comes up, mind blown, fucking incredible.
Yeah.
I love it to death.
This, and the other great thing about this, you captured it beautifully. Obviously you've seen this clip a million times. and what stuck out to me too was like, you know, I've heard this song 100 times. Like I've heard it on repeat. I've been listening to it nonstop for, you know, whatever, 30, 25 years, whatever it is. But, like you said before, it's punk, it's raw, it's blues in the studio. This version elevates this song almost to like an assault in like the best way possible. Like especially when they get to going back to Memphis, the thought I had in my head was this sounds like Elvis on amphetamines, which I think Elvis may have actually been on at the time.
Most of the 70s, brother.
Yeah. But like, it's that sort of song that but it's played 1,000 times faster than it normally is. And like you said, even no matter how fast they're playing it, they are in 100% lockstep with each other. And it's just, the chemistry there. I mean, you couldn't find two people that had better chemistry than these two in that moment or in really any moment. And it's a stunning performance. It really, really is. It's just kind of crazy. And, you know, the fact that this was one of a number of stunning performances of this song even elevates this. Again, we need to remind everybody, 90-second long song to really epic status. Like, it's kind of crazy. You know, they could do that with a song that short.
They sold a lot of tickets to that Elephant
I'm sure
tour,
they did,
I think after that performance. I mentioned it earlier with the strain on the physical toll it took performing in the Cross Canada tour they did in 2007 for Ricky Thump. They played every Canadian province and territory. You're from Long Island. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting 3 like major market arenas or like there's just the population base is there. Here, like it's an 8-hour drive between. Sure. The next big city from here in Canada is 8-hour drive away. Wow. So they also did secret shows before every gig, and they got very unique, and I encourage everyone to watch the Under Great White Northern Lights and watch that doc, learn about the band, and see these performances. But in Saskatoon, which is the Paris of the Prairies, it is a gorgeous town. Absolutely love Saskatoon. Regina, terrible town. No offense to anybody who lives there. White Stripes love bowling. There is a lot of bowling imagery. Both of them are big fans of bowling. And so they decide they're going to do a secret show at a bowling alley in Saskatoon. There's a couple good videos online. They'll be in our Instagram stories this week. But they start playing. They play two songs. They play "Let's Shake Hands" and they play "Let's Build a Home." And during "Let's Build a Home," Jack White, a avid and accomplished bowler, decides, I'm going to do what I love to do. And he's got his guitar around him like it's his gun. Yeah. And he's kind of strumming it to like keep the sound going as Meg keeps playing. Yeah. So much like the Conan O'Brien performance, Jack's going off on a world of his own, but Meg's gonna keep it driving. He's got a guitar on his back. He's got a whole crowd. He's in the middle of a concert. He throws the first ball, and it's a gutter ball. They removed that from the White Stripes official doc. So the first one's a gutter ball. Second one, he knocks down 8 pins.
Yeah, and you can watch this. You can watch this on YouTube, and when he gets that gutter ball, everybody goes, "Oh!" And then he's just like, "Screw it, I'm going again." He does it again, and he gets a go. 8 pins. That's pretty good with a guitar strapped to your back. He's playing. I'm glad you pointed out. That's my favorite part of this whole thing is that he reaches behind him and just like kind of scrapes a string to keep that sort of bottom sound going. And this, to me, again, as a non-musician, a person with no musical talent at all, this to me is unbelievable that this guy, without even looking, can pluck a string. It sounds like it's supposed to sound. It's the right note, the right chord, whatever it is. It's open string, obviously, and Meg is doing her thing. And if you didn't know better, you would think that there's a rhythm guitarist or another like backing band behind them. But no, it's just one guy bowling while playing guitar. Playing guitar at the same time. It's insane. It's completely insane.
I love that video to death, and it just goes like these performances for a song that is 90 seconds long on a good day showcases everything that is special and everything that is powerful and important about this band. So hell of a song to pick. Finally, about its live history, it was played at the last proper White Stripes gig. The White Stripes did the Icky Thump tour of Canada. They did like a big arena and shed show tour that they played Madison Square Garden in 2007. Then they're like, well, we want to go tour the South, and they are students of the blues. Right. So in their last show, which is in Missouri and South Haven, after Stop Breaking Down, which that's another song that they could play with the same guitar and tuning. They go into Let's Build a Home. And just it's a very important concert. It's the last proper one, and they do make one more appearance on the Conan O'Brien show a few years later. But like we're talking about how powerful and special this band is, and so much of it has to do with them performing live. So it's funny. I go, oh man, like where are we gonna go with this one? Like what's the poetic theme that we're gonna wrap this bastard up with a bow? We're spent all this time talking about how special of a live song this one is, how it feels like a huge part of their catalog and their repertoire, but it's not, but it is. And so for it to be performed at their last proper show, at their last proper exhibition of what made them so incredible, I love that. So I'm glad it got a showing there, and they cut Seven Nation Army out of the set list that night, and let's just say they replaced it with Let's Build a Home. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, no, for me too. I mean, I like Seven Nation Army, but for me, it's I'd rather hear Let's Build a Home. And I just my whole thing is like we were just saying, this 90-second song. Listen, I'm, again, as I said off the top, I'm a student of the mid 60s to the mid 90s. I've heard every giant epic prog rock thing you can hear, Rush, Led Zeppelin, whatever it is. Yes, no matter what, Jethro Tull. you don't need to be 11 minutes long or like the entire side of a record to be an epic song. It is about, the sound and the energy that's put into it. And even in just 90 seconds, something like this with 20 words, 3 chords can just become the most epic thing in the world. And it's even, the live version's obviously elevated to epic status, but the studio version is just as good. Like you can just hear it, even if you just heard that, you'd be like, this song is a lot more than just 90 seconds of, a couple of chords. Like there's something in this song, and clearly they really liked it too. If they played it that often, and in their, what I guess was their last set. I don't know if they knew it was going to be their last set or not, but yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot for 90 seconds, but it holds up, and I don't think I'll ever get tired of hearing it.
No, me neither. And this was a fantastic conversation, Dan. I appreciate it so much, and I think just I feel like you'll be back if you'll come back, and I think I'd love to talk about the White Stripes again with you. But we talked about Let's Build a Home this week, and listen to Dan on Islanders Anxiety and their onslaught of spin-off shows, which are all linked in the episode. They just won the draft lottery, so that's amazing. Who knows if they're gonna get if they'll draft their Let's Build a Home, but all that matters is we had a fantastic conversation talking about it this week. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it as well. I'll come on anytime you want again. Definitely check out our episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast with Ryan, talking about Canucks legend Pius Suter, who did play for the Islanders very, very briefly in a training camp. But before I go, I just got to tell you, I know your goal to get Jack White on is incredibly noble. I can't wait. Hopefully you do it. I think he would really be, it would be great for him to come on. Obviously, I think he would probably appreciate it. But I got to tell you, even in just these few episodes, you really already have made an impact, because this has gotten me to reevaluate this band. And it's not like I stopped listening to them. They come up on my phone all the time. In fact, I forgot to mention that I first started listening to them on my Generation 1 iPod, which I still have here, which our friend Mike Noble mentioned as well, but I had to bust this out. But you just this show and the way you've had these conversations with people has made me want to go back and really think deeply about this band that, has, like I said, I put them into my rotation. I love them. They're great. They come up all the time, but to sit and really think about these songs and their construction and their history and how they've, evolved over time and what they meant to the band is something that you've started me doing. So I appreciate that you've done that. So even, hopefully Jack comes on, but even if he doesn't, you have made an impact on me, and I'm sure other people are ready. So kudos to you to keep this going. I hope you're doing this with every single song they did.
That's the goal. That's the plan. And I'm a committed son of a bitch. And, the White Stripes got inducted into the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year with their first year of eligibility. And I'm just there's no podcast about them, about the White Stripes. And if there's anybody that should be doing it, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. And my goal is to do this correctly, properly, and just doing and giving them the justice that they deserve. Not every episode I'm going to be like, this is the best song ever. There's going to be some stinkers where I'm like, you know what, this song's not that good.
Yeah.
But I'm vowing to cover a band that was so important to me and will always be important to me. I'm just like, I'm vowing to do it the right way. And hey, that's how Jack White does things. Yeah. And that's the trickle down inspiration there.
I will be listening the whole time. So I can't wait to follow you down this journey.
That was Dan. That was Ryan. This is Ryan. Fantastic conversation on just a deadly song. Like just an absolute banger. Not much of a progress report on the Jack White front, but we're getting there. One step at a time, one listen at a time, one share at a time. Really looking forward to next week. You don't know what the song is next week. You don't, but I do. And you know what? Since I know what it is, I'm going to give a tiny little spoiler. The Get Behind the Camera Satan segment where we discuss the music video is going to be pretty good. But not that good. The Hardest Podcast to Podcast is hosted and produced by Ryan Schaap. Artwork by Catlin. Amanda Schultz is our assistant editorial producer.